Hey, welcome back to Geeks on Twitch. Back with match 3 of Pre-Innistrad Legacy, which has been really fun. Currently up against Just Jasper on Painter, Epic Painter, which is pretty cool. So it's a mix between Painter's Servant with Grindstone as a win, and also just an ad nauseum into Burning Wish line for either Tendrils, Empty, which should be pretty interesting. We do have some pretty good main ways to deal with the combo. We're on the play, which is nice, but this hand is a little bit lackluster. So I'm going to mulligan this hand. It doesn't really have the mana to get there. We're going to mulligan to hopefully a Green Suns with a mana accelerant, which means we can turn to Gaddock Teeg, which is pretty strong. We also have a turn to Qasali Pridemage if they go for a quick line with Painter's Servant. So I'm going to keep this. And I think it's the Aven Mind Center that I drop here. The deck does have some search. So mainly looking at the Infernal Tutors and just some of the fetch lands, but I don't think that's a strategy that I want to be holding up here. I think I'd rather just go for turn 2 Zenith, so we're going to keep this and bottom the Aven. Opponent has kept 7, so good luck to them. Green Sun Zenith is really nice here because it does allow me to have some flexibility in how I want to approach this game. If I didn't have the Qasali Pridemage and my opponent started with either a Grindstone or a Painter's Servant, then I do have the option of going for either Qasali Pridemage or Gaddock Teeg. Just like the last match, this is definitely a match where I miss Thalia. It's quite difficult playing some of these combo decks without Thalia as a pressure point and also a piece of disruption. So relying on Gaddock Teeg is a little bit tough, but it is a pretty nice card because at least once Teeg is on the field, they do have a line like Burning Wish for Grape Shot, but it might slow them down enough for us to try to build out our battlefield and put some more disruptive elements on the table. Thoughtseize is really nice here, and I'm going to assume it's the Green Suns that they take. But it's going to be nice to know that we can either have Pridemage or Sylvan Library on the field next turn. And I think we will try to get Library down to recover from the mulligan and also just make sure that we can start finding something to really interact with our opponent. So here, I'm just going to hold up Wasteland and I'm just going to play out this Library. Could be a mistake. Maybe it's correct to hold up the Qasali Pridemage to save us from something like a Grindstone Painter's turn next turn, but they need a good amount of cards in hand to pull that off. I didn't play the Forest because it is unknown information, and I'd rather my opponent have to think about what is that card. Do I have the Thoughtseize again? Even if I don't care about the Qasali Pridemage, maybe it is something else that I consider a threat against my plan. So I think playing the Wasteland here is fine. My opponent can just fetch out basics, I believe, but that's gonna be okay. Fetch into Brainstorm is interesting. I always feel like sometimes that means that my opponent is pretty close to going off and they're just looking for maybe one card to really make sure that route to victory is secure. But hopefully we get another turn. Definitely feel a little bit unease here. But really cool to see. I mean, this tournament's been a pleasure to play. It's really cool to see some of the decks that were pre-Innistrad. I think if I had a little bit more time, I would work towards the Bant Natural Order deck that looks really promising, because I think Progenitus is a pretty hard card to deal with, and then you also get some soft mission in Days, and you get Force of Will, which is nice, so you're not playing too fair, which is always good. I think my best draw of the Sylvan Library is going to be another Green Suns. I would probably put that over Qasali Pridemage as my most optimal play. But Cabal Therapy here is really nice, taking out the Pridemage. And also just getting full information of my hand. Alright, Stoneforge is interesting. Scribrange and Noble, okay. So Scribrange is pretty much free. What did they name with Ah, they named Aven Mind Sensor. Interesting. That's very interesting because they knew about the Qasali Pride Mage but didn't know about the Forest from the Thoughtseas. So that's exactly why we didn't play the Forest, and it's because it's unknown information. My opponent has chosen a card that they're kind of scared of, and in this case, it's going to be Aven, which turns off Infernal Tutor. So maybe they're actually on the Storm line here, which is a little bit scary. The big question is, do I want the Scrib Ranger? The Stoneforge Mystic is actually subtly nice here because it gives us a shuffle effect. And I think I will take the Scrib because it allows us to Scrib Ranger, untap, return, and then we have 3 mana. I was going to say the Scrib Ranger allows us to hold up Qasali Pride Mage in their turn, but I don't think I can play Scrib, Stoneforge, and Pride Mage here. I do get a land drop, which I can return with the Scrib Ranger, so 2, 3, 4, 5 mana in total. I really want to play this Stoneforge. I think Sword of Fire and Ice is probably the best because it does allow me to start pressuring and drawing cards, which is exactly what I want to be doing. But I don't want to go too low because obviously my opponent can Tendrils me, and making Tendrils, you know, a card that you have to Storm with for 6 instead of, say, something like 9 is obviously making it a lot easier for my opponent, but this is a tough one. I don't mind put on top and pay this. Play Scrib Ranger. Untap this, return this. Play Stoneforge. If I get aggressive, it also turns off an Adnor's line, which is kind of nice. So I think just going for Sword of Fire and Ice is fine here. I don't think the life gain is that relevant of like Batterskull or Jide, even though that does kind of change up the plan for Tendrils. It's interesting for sure. There's a case that I didn't need to use the Scrib Ranger here as well, and I could have just played the Forest out instead of returning the Savannah and playing it, because they do know about it from the Cabal Therapy, so... I'm just going to go with Sword. I think trying to finish this game as quickly as possible is my best bet at getting in and securing this game 1, but it is tough. Brainstorm for my opponent, put 2 back, and they have 5. Definitely a matchup where I miss Collector Oof as well. Collector Oof obviously pretty good against the Painter line, turning off Grindstone, and then obviously good against the Storm line, turning off Lotus Petal and Lion's Eye Diamond. So this Pre-Innistrad Legacy definitely makes you really appreciate some of the really powerful cards that have been printed over the last, you know, nearly decade. There's also some tricky lines where if I get a Knight down that's quite big, I do have a play of something like... swording my own Knight to stay alive through a Tendrils. Probably just going for a Past in Flames line here. Could also just be a Adnor's. Alright. There's Burning Wish, Thoughtseize, Petal, Cabal, Grindstone. There's Servant. I don't think they have the mana to play both Painter's Servant and Grindstone here. Unless they draw an LED, then they could, actually. Because they have 1 floating and 2 for Painter, and there's the LED, so that's just a win through Grindstone and Painter. So maybe that's just a lack on my part for not playing to my actual outs. They're going to keep going, which is interesting. I wonder what I'm missing. Or maybe they now see it. Are they a land drop as well? Okay, that's even better for them. So yeah, maybe actually playing the Qasali Primage last turn was correct, because it turns off the ability for my opponent to win through Painted Servant. Nice. Boarding's going to be interesting. I do like the Canonists. I think we can take out some number of swords. However, they are pretty good against the Painter line. I'm going to trim on Scrib and Scoos. Surgical's interesting as well. I don't mind it against the Past in Flames lines, because I believe they're not playing Past in Flames. They can't be. It's in Innistrad. Hilarious. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. The second library is interesting, even though I can't be too aggressive with it. Maze is definitely getting cut, let's be honest. It might just be 1 or 2 chokes. Batterskull is really nice in case they go for an early Empty the Warrens line. We do have an out to it in that case. It could just be a Knight, to be fair. We did see our opponent go for basics pretty early on, so Knight obviously not as great as it could be. I don't think I want the Tutors to try to find something like the Canonist, so I'm pretty happy just submitting this and seeing how it goes. Everything has a bit of play to it, which is nice. We'll have to play first, and this hand's really good. I'll keep this. There's some thought to going Mum into Teeg to protect it. But I definitely don't mind Hierarch, because then it turns on, if they Thoughtseize me, just choke straight away. And if they take Teeg, then we can Mum into choke as well with Cradle. I could definitely see a second Teeg in the board, especially against some of the combo decks that do play Thoughtseize, or even for some of the Miracle sort of decks. I guess there's no Miracles in the blue-white decks that do like taking out Teeg early on with something like Swords to Plowshares. Another probe. Okay. Brainstorm. That's kind of scary. That makes me think they're very close, just putting out a bunch of artifact mana and going off. So if they pass here, I think I still just want to go with Gaddock Teeg and Mum instead of playing Choke. I think taking them off all their 4 mana and above spells is better than taking off the 1 island in play at the moment. And getting that Mum online is also pretty big, because I do want to give some protection from things like Echoing Truth, Chain of Vapor, and Grape Shot. I guess Wasteland would be a pretty nice draw, and that actually is Wasteland, which is pretty nice. The question is, though, because I have the Choke, do I really want to Wasteland here? Because if my line is still just Mum into Gaddock Teeg off Cradle, then I could save the Wasteland for another land, but we'll see what jewels they actually run, because... Volk, Underground Sea. Okay, so it's really just the 1 swamp. So the Wasteland doesn't actually really matter. So I think we will still just go with Teeg here. And then take him off the island. And then next turn we can play the Mum and play the Choke. They have the Swamp, which is interesting. Just a pass. Okay. So what if we do Mum and then Green Suns for... I guess we can't Green Suns because of the Gaddock Teeg. No Fatal Push to worry about, which is nice. So just gonna 6 here. And then really just 6 on my opponent's turn as well. Teeg, a nice speed bomb for sure, but not something that I can rely on just by itself. I think I will need to find something like a Qasali Primate or a Canonist to make sure I can keep my opponent from really going off, because, you know, they're only 1 bounce spell or 2 bounce spells to the Mum online from going off. And although Choke turns off their islands after they use it once, they do have access to Lotus Petal. It's an interesting setup though, because this probably is a matchup where I am more likely in some situations to lead on Mum into Canonist or Gaddock Teeg instead of going for Noble Hierarch, but just with the hand that we had, I felt that the mana accelerant was better. Jasper having a good think, which is always a little bit scary. Usually when your Storm opponent is taking their time, it means that they have a line that they believe could get there. Double LED, wow. I feel like they're going to try to ponder or brainstorm into Grindstone. Red. Oh, maybe they have main deck Grape Shot? Burning Wish. Interesting. Yeah, it's going to be Grape Shot here probably. Just to blow out my hand. I'll blow up my board. So we'll see what happens next turn and what I draw, but I could go something like Windswept Heath into Savannah. Oh, Pride Mage is actually pretty nice. Pride Mage is really nice. Noble's pretty sweet. Just to keep that the damage happening. I don't want to use the Green Suns here. I want to keep up draw a card and also Qasali Pride Mage's ability. Okay. Joke doing a lot of work here as well, which is nice. So here I get to float 2, and then use 1 to sack this. Another choke, okay, not the best. Another canopy, okay. I probably don't mind just going for another Qasali here. Scoos is also interesting. But I think it is just Qasali Pride Mage. This means that if they don't block here, then next turn I can use 1 to blow it up and then attack with the other one for lethal. Mox is going to be okay. That currently does nothing other than just Storm. I guess it turns on because of the Painter. Huh. So part of me does just want to deal with the Painter Servant here. Because then I have lethal back anyway. It turns off this from being like a blue mana. Yeah, nice. And I think that's fine because we have the other... If for some reason they have a way out of this, we have the other Pride Mage to use, so... I think that's fine. Interesting that they've gone for... I guess, naturally they had it there, but they had, They had Painter both times, so I kind of like bringing in the extra sword. The Surgicals I'm not too fond of, but I'm not too sure what's better. Quick look at their deck list. They don't use their graveyard in any way, but there are times where I could take something that's worthy. It might just be Tutor over a Surgical. At least Tutor can find Canonist, and I guess the Choke if I really want it. No white mana. I can go for a turn 1 Zenith, but I'm not really sure how good that is. Because if they Thought Seize us and take a Green Suns, then we Green Suns for Dried Arbor, but then don't have anything to really back it up with. So I'm going to mulligan this. This is better. It's just slow, but I think that's okay. I think I'll just bottom a land here, because all of these creatures have some different effects. So Gaddock Teeg obviously good against both Empty, Tendrils, Adnors. Pride Mage good against the Painter Servant version, and then Stoneforge can actually get me out, perhaps from an early Empty, and then Avon's just really nice. So actually I'm just going to bottom a land here. On the draw I don't feel too bad about that, and my opponent's gone to 6 as well, so should be interesting. Oh, okay, that's actually quite nice. Savannah into Mum. Just have to survive one turn here. Always scary. It's really nice playing some of the old cards. Like, obviously Pride Mage has kind of fallen out of favor for Night of Autumn, but the instant speed ability of it is really nice. And then, like, Avon's a card that I haven't seen too much of in Legacy, since some really good printings for Death and Taxes and Maverick have kind of taken that. I really want to see a Thoughtseize here and not a Ritual. Ritual would be a little bit scary. Oh, a Grindstone. Okay. I probably just want to go for Pride Mage here then. Just to get it online, because I'm not 100% going to draw a land next turn, so I want to make sure I can use it if it's around. But like, Painter into LED here is just game. Oh, it's going to be a pass back. Okay. Wasteland, that's pretty huge. Let's attack first. And then I could hold up Avon, but I think the best play here is to play the Gaddock Teeg out and then have Wasteland up for Chrysali Pride Mage, which kind of covers me on both ways to stop my opponent from winning this game. Opponent down to 4 cards, so we could see something like an end step bounce effect, so I have to use the Mum, then untap and then try to do something. Like a Burning Wish into Grape Shot again would be really good for my opponent, but they don't have anything, which is good for us. Let's see what this Ponder does. Obviously we want to see a shuffle, but with the land, it's a little bit closer to them just keeping on top, drawing the card they want, and then shuffling. Next turn I get to attack for 4, which is nice, which makes it a 4-turn clock. Not even different with the Pluto Delta in play. And then I get to, if I draw a land, that's probably the best thing, because then I get to hold up Avon Mind Sensor. I can't Green Suns, of course, with the Teeg in play, but that's okay. I think in this case, and you know, a lot of players would ask, you know, why would you play Gaddock Teeg in a deck that plays Green Sun Zenith, or why would you play Collect Oof in a deck that plays Stoneforge Mystic? And it's usually that the Hate Bear is doing so much more at keeping your opponent at bay than keeping, you know, you from casting your 1 Green Suns. And you know, it doesn't usually come up either, which is nice. And usually against the decks where you want Teeg, you're more happy with it on the board. They chose not to shuffle, okay. My opponent must have a line. Ugh. LED? Okay. LED is fine. Painter's Servant. So I could crack the Grindstone in response, but then next turn I don't really have anything. So I think here it's just a case of letting this resolve. I'm just hoping that this one Pride Mage is enough. Everything is blue. Okay. So do they have any, like, pyro? They have 2 Pyroblasts. Okay. Oh, Swords is fantastic for us. So let's go to attacks first. Attack for 3. I still want this Wasteland because I want the ability to cast this Aven Mind Sensor. Down the line. I could have cast the Stoneforge Mystic, but I like holding up Swords to Plowshares here. Another Painter would be interesting. Another Painter and a Pyroblast would be brutal. Also, something like Force of Vigor would be kind of cool here. You can't cast it with a Gaddock Teeg in play, but this is definitely a matchup that I'd be happy to bring in Force of Vigor against. Again, just because, you know, if Teeg's on the field, it's doing a lot of work, but if it isn't and we have Force in hand, then that's also a massive plus. Truth on this is interesting. Let's go give protection. I don't think this does anything. Another Truth. And they have 0 cards in hand. I think we just let this resolve and then hold up the sword. I don't really want to lose it, so I don't want to use it here. I guess what I could do is sack and hit the Grindstone, and then in response to them activating, I can Swords the Painter, and then at least the Pride Mage is then traded for both pieces, so I don't mind that. So let's go hit Grindstone. This also makes them lose the LED as well, which is huge. They target us, and in response, we Swords Painter. So now we lose a Wasteland and a Swords. They lose the Grindstone. The Truths don't resolve. And now we untap with a Mum and a Gaddock Teeg. So now we're in a really good position. Another Mum. I could take my opponent off red, but I think here I want to just probably play the Stoneforge Mystic in the Mother of Runes. I'm going to attack first. a cool line there from my opponent, to say the least. It's gonna get Sword of Fire and Ice. The interesting thing with Sword of Fire and Ice is that the protection from blue means that if they play a painter and name blue, then the sword does fall off. Jitters not bad either. I guess the way for my opponent to win is off the top going painter into Grindstone again, which we can take them off a land at least, but that would be a tricky one. I think it is just going to be the Sword of Fire and Ice, because it does deal the most damage. Really hope this is a shuffle. Chose not to shuffle. Okay. Taxing Probe. Okay. It is Painter. All right. So now we naturally need to draw pretty much Qasali Pride Mage. Wasteland does take them off a turn. It means they can't Grindstone, cast it, and also activate it. So I don't mind hitting them with Wasteland. So we're going to get Pro Blue. Wasteland my opponent and then just hold up Sword. Even though we can't use it, I think that's okay. I mean, Avon would have been sweet there because now they get Grindstone. Yeah. And another Green Suns means we're just dead. There's no way to kill the Gaddock Teeg either. Yeah. The extra. That's a big yikes. The Green Sun Zeniths were just, yeah, a little bit rough. But cool games. I still like my line of not having Avon there. Obviously these as lands would have been nice, but definitely a tough one. Maybe the play was keep Avon up. Tough. Cool games though. Definitely can't be unhappy with those. So I hope you enjoyed this content. I'll be back for match 4. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get some matches in, or even tonight, and I'll upload them to YouTube. So yeah, hope you're doing well. We'll see you next time. Cheers.